Shalom, family. My name is Brother YATAB, and to my left, we have Brother.
Aman Allah.
And so in today's lesson, we're going to be dealing with the siege of 70 A.D. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the siege of 70 A.D. Dealing with the Jewish Roman War, also known as the Jewish Revolt. Okay, so the Jewish Roman War, also known as the Jewish Revolt. So that's what you're dealing with. We deal with the siege of 70 A.D. And let's go ahead and we're going to start with a couple of scriptures. Let's get the book of Luke. Book of Luke, chapter 21. I'm going to start with verse 20.
The book of Luke, chapter 21, and verse 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
So it says, that when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So, and we'll find out more what armies it's talking about. Read on.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
Right, so let's go ahead and go to the slides. If we can go to the PowerPoint. All right, so now this here, what you're looking at is called the Arch of Titus. Okay, the Arch or the Ark of Titus, the Ark of Titus. Now we're going to read this. The Ark of Titus is a Roman triumphal ark, which was erected by Domitian in C, meaning circa, around the time of 81 CE, Common Era, or 81 AD. So it says, at the foot of the Palatine Hill, on the Via Sacra in the Forum Romanum, Rome, it commemorates the victories of his father, Vespasian. So it commemorates the victories of his father, Vespasian, and brother Titus in the Jewish war in Judea, 70 to 71 CE. When the great city of Jerusalem was sacked and the vast riches of its temple plundered. The arch is also a political and religious statement expressing the divinity of the late Emperor Titus. And that's from worldhistory.org. So here's another image depicting the Arch of Titus. So this one is just a little closer. This one is the furthest away. So this is a very close-up depiction of the arch. And then we're going to get in the inside of it, and this is the depiction. And this showed the Roman soldiers carrying away many of the goods of our temple, especially the most infamous one is the menorah. So you can see the menorah or the candlestick right there in the middle. So now, when the scriptures say, when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, the armies it's making mention of that we know historically are the Roman armies. So then know that the desolation thereof is nigh, the desolation or destruction of our temple, of our city. So then let them which are in Judea, which that's the area that was attacked, within Israel, so flee to the mountains. What mountains were we fleeing to? We were fleeing into the various surrounding regions, going up into different places such as even as far as the Iberian Peninsula, where many of our people became associated and known as Moors, along with, Arabs and Africans in that region that also became known as Moors. The Moor just means black. We also fled into other areas going into Asia, as well as other places going down into Africa. And that's where many of us fled, was down into Africa. So it's to let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto, because, of course, some of our people may be going back home. Home ain't a place to go to anymore because it's now been destroyed and it's been desolate. All right, let's get some other information. So this is from Babylon and Timbuktu. So from Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. Okay, and Ahmad, may you go ahead and read that for me, please?
Yes. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
So even though it's known as the siege of 70 AD, it did not start in 70 AD. It actually started sometime prior to that, but the fulfillment of it was in 70 AD. All right, so now continue on.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state.
That's what you're doing. That's when they finally put an end to the Jewish state. Read on.
With great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people.
So what kind of outrages and atrocities are you dealing with? You're dealing with starvation, famines. They were starving us out. The Roman armies were starving our people out. Even so much that you had even some of our people that resorted to cannibalism, eating their own children. So those are things that you can find in the works of Flavius Josephus. So you can read that. It details a lot of these atrocities that actually took place. Read on.
During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million, if I'm correct, a million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
And that's page 84 of this book. So now moving on to the next slide, we have the Jewish-Roman War. And this is from Britannica.com, where the mass majority of the next information is going to stem from. So may you go ahead and read that for me.
The Jewish-Roman War, or the Siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE, Roman military blockade of Jerusalem during the first Jewish revolt. The fall of the city marked the effective conclusion of a 4-year campaign.
So this was a campaign that lasted not just a year, but it lasted for years. All right? So now, read on.
A 4-year campaign against the Jewish insurgency in Judea. The Romans destroyed much of the city, including the Second Temple.
So now, this is why the scripture is saying, Luke, let not him that is in the country return thereunto, because most of the city was destroyed in the siege. Read on.
The majority of information on the siege comes from the copious notes of the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus.
Come from who?
Flavius Josephus.
So that's where the majority of the information concerning the siege can be found. Okay, I was reading the book earlier, and I said, ooh, there's so much information in here, because he just goes on and on concerning it. So that's where, if you want to know all the details, that's where you can go to read about all the details. Read the books of Flavius Josephus, where it deals with the wars of the Jews. So now, let's continue on. So this is from Britannica, dealing with context. So it says in 63 BCE, the Roman general Pompey captured Jerusalem. The Romans ruled through a local client king and largely allowed free religious practice in Judea. At times, the divide between monotheistic and polytheistic religious views, mono meaning one, poly meaning many or more than one, religious views caused clashes between Jews and Gentiles. This friction, combined with oppressive taxation and unwanted imperialism, culminated in 66 CE in the first Jewish revolt. The revolt was successful at first. Jewish forces quickly expelled the Romans from Jerusalem, and a revolutionary government was formed that extended its influence into the surrounding area. In response, the Roman Emperor Nero sent the general Vespasian to meet the Jewish forces, an endeavor that pushed the majority of the rebels into Jerusalem by the time Vespasian was proclaimed emperor in 69 CE. Let me read the next slide.
The fall of Jerusalem. In April 70 CE, about the time of Passover, the Roman general Titus besieged Jerusalem. Since that action coincided with Passover, the Romans allowed pilgrims to enter the city but refused to let them leave, thus strategically depleting food and water supplies within Jerusalem.
And that was the goal, strategically to starve us out, letting people in to use the resources, but not letting people out when those resources were depleted. So it would just further the chaos going on within the city. Read on.
Within the walls, the Zealots, a militant anti-Roman party, struggled with other Jewish factions that had emerged, which weakened the resistance even more. Josephus, a Jew who had commanded rebel forces but then defected to the Roman cause, attempted to negotiate a settlement.
So now, when you read about Josephus and his works, he does let it be known that he is a Jew, is an Israelite. However, he decided to go against his nation and side with the Romans because he was trying to convince our people, hey, look, you don't want it with Rome. Don't rebel. Don't revolt. All right, y'all revolted. Well, I'm going with the Romans. So he made his choice. However, because of some of the regrets that he had concerning his choice and some of the guilt, he decided that while he was under Roman rule and while he had time and liberty, he decided to write the works and historicity concerning his people, both prior to his time and even during all the atrocity, everything that happened, during the onset that he was able to watch, happen. He was just annotating and noting everything and was able to publish his works in hopes of redeeming himself from what many would say probably the treason and traitorousness of his ways. So, and all praises he did do that because we are able to look back on all the work that he put in that we can read about today, that even others like Britannica is saying this is where we get the majority of our information. May he continue.
To negotiate a settlement, but because he was not trusted by the Romans and was despised by the rebels, the talks went nowhere. The Romans encircled the city with a wall to cut off supplies to the city completely and thereby drive the Jews to starvation.
Mm-hmm. So now let's continue. So now, this said the fall of Jerusalem continued. By August 70 CE, the Romans had breached the final defenses and massacred much of the remaining population. They also destroyed the second temple, the western wall. The only extant trace of the second temple remains a site of prayer and pilgrimage. The loss of the temple for a second time is still mourned by Jews during the fast of Tisha B'Av. Rome celebrated the fall of Jerusalem by erecting the triumphal ark of Titus. That's what you're dealing with, and that's the ark that I showed at the beginning of this, which is this ark here. This shows their triumph over us. So now you see even more so why when he looks at our enemy, this Esau, so-called white man, why he has to be destroyed, because look at what he did to our people. Not only did he destroy us, but he did it in a way to cause the highest level of suffering that he could. Starved us out, dealing with famine. And not just any type of famine, we just lacking a little bit, but so much so where they don't have food, water, resources that resulted in us having to eat our own children, eat each other. That's difficult for us to fathom because many are in a place where we poor now, we lacking now. How much more so with our people then? So that is the history of the siege of 70 AD. And with that, I say shalom.
Kwame Yasharallah.